Hello friends and welcome to my channel. In this video I will repair this new generation auto amplifier. Let's begin. First of all, I will tell you the story of this amplifier. I received this from a friend of mine and he told me that bought this brand new, and after few months suddenly smells a lot of smoke inside of this and disconnected from the battery. My first impression is that these two capacitors are in bad shape, and here I have to say that it's more difficult than I expected. I didn't see any visible problem, and I want to take off this cover to see what's inside. As you can see, these are very fat, and I am surprised that these capacitors are 2000 microfarads and 80 volts. Usually these capacitors are only 13 volts. Now I will power this up and I will make some tests. I made a short circuit here between remote and plus. I modify my power supply. I have 13 volts and 2 amps. Let's start the power supply. Here we have 13 volts, and now let's measure. You can hear the protection. Let's measure the voltage. $60 volts. I believe that it's good. I have 1.3 amps power consumption. That's a lot. Let's measure the voltage to the speakers. It's good. It's good. -61 volts. -61 volts. It seems good, but I believe that is a problem with this part. That's the inverter. This part inputs 12 volts, and here output ±60 volts. But there's too much power consumption, and I have to find a component that takes more power. I believe this should be 60 volts because the capacitors are made for 80 volts, but I measure 120 volts here, and I believe that's why these capacitors, as you can see, they are not in good shape. They will have to be replaced, and I believe that's a problem in the supply part. And sometimes here we have over voltage, and that's why this capacitor got dead. Now I will find the schematic and I will check the part that regulates output voltage. I found the schematic on the internet and I noticed that it's not the usual AB class amplifier like I repaired before. This is a class D amplifier and I have to make a new approach. Now I hope that you can see I desoldered this rectifier diode. This first part, it's a step-up module with 12 volts input, and here we have plus minus 60 volts. I desolder this rectifier diode from this chopper to see if the great power consumption is from audio part or from power supply part. Now I am looking to my power supply. I have only 0.5 amps power consumption with this diodes cut off from the circuit. That means that this power supply part is good and the problem is somewhere on the amplifier or pre-amplifier part. Now I will solder back this cathode and anode. Now I will turn on the power supply and I have 1.3 amps power consumption. I think that it's too much. I will test again the parts from audio amplifier to see if I can identify. I didn't find anything suspicious. I didn't find anything fault. Now I will make a test to check the sound of this amplifier. I've replaced these original capacitors with this one. Was a little difficult to replace, because I have to use the big power welding device, and this was very difficult to find because of this shape and value. Now let's make some tests. So my power supply is now on 10 volts and 2 amps. Let's check this. It's 10 volts. Now let's measure the voltage on the capacitor. It's 47 volts and 47 volts. When I measure with 30 volts input, we measure here 60 volts on supply of the amplifier. Now let's increase the input voltage. 11 volts, 11 volts input, 50 volts here. Now let's increase 12 volts, 13 volts, you can see 61 volts and 61 volts. Let's increase to the 14 volts, and here we have 66 and 66. Now I've turned off the power supply. There is something that I don't like. I suppose that this power supply is stabilized and the output voltage is fixed no matter the input voltage. Now I have to study the schematic of this and check how it's made stabilizer for this. I presume that on that car with problem, here was too much voltage on input, and that's why the voltage of this capacitor was too much for this and overcome this nominal voltage, and that's why this made smoke. I will check to see why this output voltage is not stabilized, and I will put here the schematic of this power supply. So I studied the schematic of this amplifier, and I will put for you in the end of the video. I noticed that this output voltage is not stabilized, and I think there is a big difference. 12 volts input voltage and 30 volts output voltage, and I believe that this amplifier will work better with a stabilized output voltage, because I think this old capacitor made smoke because of the input voltage peak, over voltage on input, and that increased the output voltage and more than 80 volts. And if you got an amplifier like this, you have to check your voltage on the battery to be sure that not exceeds 15 volts, because over 15 volts this it's not safe. Now let's make some tests. I prepared everything for the test. This amplifier, it's powered from this power supply, 14 volts and 10 amps. This is the dummy load. Now we have 1.4 power consumption. Power LED, it's on, protect off. Here we have sine wave generator. First of all, let's test this. I forgot to supply this. So here is the input sine wave. We have 4 volts peak to peak and 200 Hertz frequency. Let's decrease the amplitude. So we have 1 volt peak to peak. So it's 2 volts peak to peak, and I will put to high level input. I will modify this to the minimum input level. Gain, I will put gain to the minimum. And now I will put the input. Now we have 14 volts peak to peak. It's a small power consumption. I will increase the gain. Now it's taking 10 amps from my power supply. It's taking 150 watts. But I will decrease the gain because the resistor takes only 100 watts. So the shape is good. I have peak to peak 70 volts. This is cold. I have 70 volts voltage on load 8 ohms. It's peak to peak. This is dummy load, it's hot, and that's why the cooler starts to This is still cold because it's class B. Now let's check this if got very hot. There is no hot at all. The coils are hot, and because of that all the parts are hot, even these capacitors. Now let's make the conclusions. I like this amplifier because it's in class D and it's very efficient and has a bigger power than all the school auto amplifiers. But I don't like that output voltage, it's not stabilized, as you can see. And that's why you have to take care to be sure that car voltage is not over 40 volts. Now I'll put everything together and I will test with a subwoofer on my car. If you tested this amplifier, please tell me in a comment what you think about these new school amplifiers, auto amplifiers. If you have any question, please put it in a comment. Thanks for watching. See you in my next video. Bye.